Welcome to the HDO Portfolio Tracker overview. In this overview, we'll talk about the functionality and capability of the HDO Portfolio Tracker. You'll notice there's a tab for HDO and non-HDO stocks. We're going to start on the non-HDO tab, as the tracker separates your holdings into those that are HDO holdings and those that are not. For a non-HDO holding, you'll notice the symbols will appear in alphabetical order, top to bottom. And the tracker for both HDO and non-HDO works much like you would expect a normal portfolio tracker. Number of shares, buy price, invested amount, current value, change in value as a percent or percent of portfolio, current dividend yield, estimated income, and percent of your total income from that particular stock. You'll notice portfolio totals at the top, such as cash balance, HDO and non-HDO. These totals lay out your average yield and income per year, as well as showcasing things such as today's positive or negative gain for that day. Additionally, there are allocation alerts that can get triggered, such as individual holdings that exceed a certain percentage of your overall account. They're highlighted in J. And if an individual holding that exceeds a percent of your total dividend income yield, that will get highlighted in column N. Now let's take a look at the HDO tab next. The HDO tab shows all HDO stocks in alphabetical order by the holdings. So you'll notice that they're alphabetically sorted by the positions that you have. The tab displays all the same basic data that was seen on the previous tab, but because of its dynamic link to the HDO portfolio sheet, it provides a wealth of additional information. The individual allocation alerts are based on the HDO maximum percentage recommended. The buy below or buy under is located right next to the current price, along with the percentage above or below with a green highlight. The investment sector, HDO portfolio section, and K1 tax columns are also provided here. The HDO risk rating, including a table of what percent of HDO holdings are invested at each risk level and a calculation of the weighted risk average for the HDO portfolio as a whole, is provided here in the top right. An ex-dividend schedule that highlights the date and amount of the next declared dividend or last dividend so that the next distribution dividend can be calculated. Any HDO stocks that have not been purchased will show up in alphabetical order below. But let's take a look now at the fourth tab, the Holdings tab. The Holdings tab is the data entry page for the user's investment information. It's the only place on the spreadsheet where information will be entered. The table is pre-populated with all the current HDO portfolio securities. The primary data that you'll enter is the number of shares and your average price or average cost. If you put in a non-HDO stock, you'll also be prompted for other information such as yield or sector. An average cost calculator is provided here if the value is not already known. Now important, all of this information comes from the HDO portfolio sheet at the top. If this is not the current sheet, you'll get an error message here to update the link to the current sheet. You can enter user preferences at the top, such as cash balance or certain thresholds for your alerts. Now let's take a look at the Core Allocation, tab 5. The Core Allocation contains all the securities that are part of the HDO core portfolio grouped into traded funds and individual stocks. The table shows whether your mix of core stocks and funds is balanced along the currently recommended 50-50 allocation. For core securities that are not yet owned, the table identifies those that are a must-own or top buy and below the buy-under price. The 50-50 split can be changed to suit an investor's personal risk level. If the allocation to stock and funds becomes significantly unbalanced, the list of suggested securities will shift to favor only those that will steer the core portfolio back into balance. Core holdings that have been identified as over-allocated are highlighted as potential areas to consider for rebalancing. The Sector Allocation tab combines all the HDO and non-HDO holdings and groups them according to investment sector and shows how your allocation compares to the recommended standard. Overallocation is quickly recognized with orange and red threshold alerts that are user adjustable and can be customized to suit the individual situation. Any individual securities that have been identified as over-allocated are highlighted to help analyze what might contribute to a sector allocation problem. Any sector that is under-allocated will identify potential candidates that are currently below the buy under price and designated as a must-own or top buy. Additionally, these candidates are compared against suggestions from the Core Allocation tab to give you a short list of securities that would be appropriate to meet the diversification goals of both core and sector allocations. The Overview tab is a summary of some of the most important facts and statistics about your investment portfolio, such as amount invested, market value, capital gain in today's change, overall portfolio income, average yield, annual income, and monthly income, overall HDO portfolio holdings by core, type, value, and percent, as well as allocation of those different individual securities across the overall portfolio. So as you can see, it's called a portfolio tracker. It's not an accounting program. It does not have a transaction ledger with a high degree of accuracy, but it will satisfy the needs of most investors. In its current form, it can't compute total return or handle options trading or manage dividend payments. However, it has unique features to help every HDO subscriber be a better investor by understanding what you own and guiding you toward lower risk through diversification. Secondly, it'll help to identify those securities that are contributing toward overallocation and suggesting securities that could help you be better diversified. Deciding when to trim, when to sell, which stocks to buy next is much easier when you have adequate knowledge of your current composition. Number 3, collecting and organizing lots of investment data about HDO securities will help to invade you with your investment decisions. And number 4, investors that are new to HDO can receive directions quickly on which new securities would be most helpful to them and maintain diversification as they transition into a new mix of investments. So I hope this was a helpful overview in getting you started using the HDO Portfolio Tracker.